All right, we are live. I am hoping that the sound is going to be good. The video looks rather awful, but I've got time to fix that, maybe. I am live a little bit early here, and the reason is it's my experience when going live that the first few minutes don't really go anywhere. Sometimes it takes 30 to 45 plus minutes to get people going and to get people talking, or whatever the case may be, for people to find the video. I don't do a good job of doing this consistently enough for people to know to tune in at a certain time to see me, and that's my own fault. But here we are. I am going to get my phone out as well. Now, usually I go live from my phone, and I can't really see what people are commenting very well if I only have my phone. How you doing, Hospitaler? However, I think on the laptop I might not need it. I think I can see the comments pretty good right there. So maybe I won't need to get the phone out as a secondary. So we'll kind of get us set up here. A few things off the bat. I want to apologize. You're probably going to hear the furnace going. I am dog sick, so my voice sounds weird, and you'll probably see me blow my nose a lot. And if that's a no-go for you, just click away now, because it's going to happen. And also, as an intro, today is Friday. We are kind of doing a fixed blade Friday here. And this Monday, the 23rd, right before Christmas, somebody is going to win this knife. This is a very special jackalope. If you haven't seen already, orange Cerakote, the ultra rare ferro rod notch there, shade tree micarta, natural burlap micarta with some blue on the center there in the micarta. It's absolutely beautiful. Orange topo sheath. So the way to win this knife, I've got a video, probably my last video, excuse me, or even short. But I am wanting to support a GoFundMe for Jake Asuit at Very Good Knife Company and for Blackie Thomas. So if people want a chance to win this knife, what you're going to do is you are going to send them money on GoFundMe, and for every $10 you spend on them, you get a raffle ticket. I won't see a single cent of the money. And Monday we will have a random drawing, and someone's going to get this sweet, unique, rare blade right here. And Lord willing, we'll have raised a substantial amount for what I think is a good cause. Okay, so this is my Hidden Woodsman backpack. It's one of my favorites. I have it packed with like 60 pounds of knives here. And chances are I will not get an opportunity to talk about every knife in this pack, because I'm kind of new to this whole camper thing. And my battery on the laptop is not charging. So we're just running this off of battery. I guess the output on the inverter is 3.1 volts, and the output for the input for the laptop is 3.2 volts. So maybe that means we're getting nothing. To be honest with you, I don't know. But we're going to do what we can do. We're going to talk about knives until either the computer fails or I fail. Either one is likely, because I'm tired. What I want to do right now is pull them all out so I can kind of see them easily. And so what this is a lot of this is knives that I absolutely love, but that I feel have not gotten enough screen time yet. And I feel guilty about that. This year, I got a lot of knives. Dead Wolf, I'm doing well, buddy. This year, I got a lot of knives, a lot of just legendary knives. And I had a lot happen that was difficult for me to deal with. And I did not get nearly so much as I wanted to do done. My current YouTube backlog is insane. And since nobody's paying me to do videos, I can only afford to do as many videos as I can afford to donate the time. So, you know, the wife tells me that I need to work harder at making money on YouTube and figuring out how to start brokering brand deals and getting paid by manufacturers, paid well for videos. But the point of this YouTube channel from the very beginning was I felt that that would create a conflict of interest. And in fact, to such a degree that what I want to do is that even the knives that have been given to me to be reviewed on this channel, I want to break them, leaving myself with absolutely nothing at the end. So, you know, for every knife, if it gets a couple of videos and I end up breaking it for a video, we're looking at a personal investment of probably at least 10 hours, if not 15 hours of labor. It's absolutely no return. So that's just the way it is. It's just what limits me. Patreon helps, but, you know, whatever. It is what it is. I want to mention really quick, if we stay on one knife for a while, you guys might see me stropping, and this is a very special strop that was made for me by my buddy Alan Sweat from HCO Strops down there in Georgia. This is I'm trying to get YouTube to pay me to not make videos. That's freaking on the money. What will happen with that is the feds will just unalive you. At that point, it's cheaper for them to do, but it would be nice. This is a special strop with a kangaroo leather, and I like giving shout outs to my buddy Alan because he just makes really, really nice strops, and they're not that expensive. You know, he's just a guy who's passionate and literally loves what he's doing, like me. So it's a labor of love, and I like supporting guys like that when and where I can. So we are getting started here with all of that said, all of the setup and everything like that. We're getting close to my announced time to start. And I want to start with a knife that is surprisingly, I love this knife. And I did a whole review on this knife, and I lost a little bit of the footage, and so I haven't posted any of it. And I'm looking to get back into the footage that I have and back into reviewing this knife and giving this knife the review that it really deserves. So it does not come with this leather belt loop. This is the Rewild Gear Jasper 4. And when I tell you that I love this knife, I think that this might be my favorite production knife of all time. The capabilities of the knife, the price of the knife, the fit and finish and attention to detail and materials. It is a absolute home run. And I have had stress for probably years for not getting the video that this knife deserves up. And so the reason that I love this knife so much is S35VN. This is Taro Tough scales, so they're not the most beautiful scale material, but the shape of them is just wonderful. This stuff is really soft. It's really a warm material, the way it's finished out like this. It kind of gets grippier when wet, and you don't see it a lot. And what's unique about this knife, it's very lightweight, very capable. I've done some batoning, lots of fire stuff with it, nice ferro rod notch here. What's really unique about it is for a production knife, this was manufactured by White River Knife and Tool on a grind that high in S35 VN. They went with a behind the edge thickness of, geez, I don't know. I can't honestly remember. I bet you that's 12 thou. Paper. This is not a knife. This is a lightsaber. Look at the finish on the thing. And companies are not going to make a knife this thin as a production knife, generally speaking, because the chance of breakage when you go that thin on the edge is too doggone high. And if there are any mistakes in this knife, it will fail. But it hasn't. It's just been amazing. I don't know if I mentioned it, but this leather is by Spirit of the Bear Designs. If I get custom leather, generally speaking, he is the man. Michael Spaniers at Spirit of the Bear Designs. Here we go. All right, we've got Phil's EDC in the house, guys. Phil is my brother from a maple syrup mother up in Canada. Glad to have you, man. Yeah, we're just talking knives and just got done talking about this Rewild Gear Jasper 4, which is, I think, my favorite production knife of all time. Next, I want to move into another knife, which I just love. And I've been waiting to do a lot of content on it until I do a what is a combat knife video, because a lot of people honestly have no idea, no clue what really constitutes a good combat knife. But this does it. This is the Void Tactical Freeman in EDC RV2. Edge is a little bit thicker than what I normally go for, but with the bevel height, it's not bad for combat use. I'd say this sucker's looking right at about 20, we're looking at 30 thou, I would say, behind the edge thickness. So it's not a very slicey knife, but it takes a wonderful edge. It's a very practical shape. And I'm telling you, for a combat knife, this is one of the best handles in the business. It's nimble, it's narrow, it's quick, but it's not uncomfortable. So I can use this knife all the doggone sing-song day without discomfort, but it packs easily on the belt. The guys at Void Tactical are making these down in Florida. I don't know how they're doing it. They are freaking killing it, dude. I am so serious. So Dead Wolf said, I baton split with a lot of firewood. I use a lot of smaller material with small wood stoves. I do that a lot as well myself. So that is the Void Tactical Freeman EDC RV2. And honestly, this knife, this is a Cerakote finish, and there should be no finish left on this knife. I just love it, and I don't know why it hasn't gotten the respect that it deserves, except that, like I keep saying, man, I'm going to hit this thing hard when I do what is a combat knife video, and then I keep not doing the video. So there we go. Here's one that I need to get back into. This is the Polish tracker by Shagat Handmade. I absolutely love Michael's work over there in Poland. So this is not a knife that is readily available on the market. It's based on his Crusher knife, but what he was thinking about doing was, instead of making a traditional tracker with the quarter round on the front, he put the quarter round on the back. The first prototype is a knife that, hey, what's up, Max? The first prototype that I absolutely loved, what's up, Dan, was a little bit thick behind the edge, and I made a couple of suggestions to him for a couple ways that he would tweak it, because this is not a finished model. This is something that I wanted to help him kind of perfect and get streamlined before it went into production. So this is the second version, and this one got twisted a little bit because Michael is pushing the limits on what a doggone knife can do here. And so what I need to do in the near future with this knife is I need to take it out. It's already bent a little bit, and I need to see what it's actually going to do, and I need to break it. It's going to be a freaking ton of work, but it absolutely deserves it, and his work is so freaking nice. What's up, Crispies? Glad to have you on, guys. And he does wonderful kydex too. The value that you get when you go with Shagat Handmade is absolutely amazing. Some of the best dollar for dollar, bang for buck value custom makers on the planet are in Poland. It's just the way it is. So Dead Wolf said he won a Kukri Plus in 5200 from Cold Steel, and it's doing good with the firewood. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. All right, guys, here's one that I, again, feel guilty about. This is from Kettle River Cutlery, and this is one that I really need to do a video on in the near future. And so this boy right here is made in M42, a high-speed steel that's not quite like M4. Or is it M48? It's got to be M42, right? Because it's on there. He made this. He's a knife steel nerd, a fantastic guy. And I need to get this back out and bang on it. Now, I'm showing you this. The edge on this is not as pretty as the ones that he makes now. And that's part of my difficulty with doing a video on this blade is it's special. It's extra special to me because it's one of his early knives, and it is a little bit more rough around the edges. The kydex is like a left hand deal, not a lot of retention. The edge isn't as good. He's doing a lot better work now. And part of the difficulty in really doing a video on this knife is people will see that and think poorly of him because it's not up to the standards that he does currently. And so as a reviewer, I don't want to make him look bad when he's doing better stuff now. And I see so much potential, and this is a really cool knife, and I really enjoy it. I don't know. It's probably mostly in my own head. All right, guys. Another one here. Where's my mouse? Hello, mouse. Wake up. There we are. Oh. All right, so Crispy Donut Community asks, so who is the best custom smaller EDC fixed blade maker out there worldwide? It's mom's drop. So, first things first, I want to think of somebody who specializes in small knives. I think the AA Forge Sparrow is a really sick knife, and I really like AA Forge's work. He's on my personal grail list. I forget custom makers too dang quickly. It's so hard for me on the spot to remember all of the custom makers that I know. I think Primitive Bear Knives does a great job. He's got his own very unique style. Oh, you know what? It might. Let's springboard off of that with two knives at once. So these are two of my thinnest behind the edge knives. I actually forgot a knife to bring out here. I wanted to bring my Very Good Knife Company Traditions Junior, and it's not out here. This is Roland Cutlery. And this is Creeley from Gary Creeley. Bowler N360. This is a steel called Chef Cut, which is a modified version of 26C3. It is my only knife in that steel, and it is exceptionally cool. And both of these knives, excuse me, come in with behind the edge thicknesses that are microscopic. I think if I remember right, the Creeley comes in right at about 8 thou. I would say that the Roland Cutlery Gopher here is about 12 thou. and that is exceptionally thin. So both of these knives just eat. Now, they are a little bit different knives for a little bit. Oh, and this is my only knife in Bowler N360. So this is Bowler's version of Zfinite LC200N. And I can't remember any other brands that make this steel. This steel is basically a stain-proof, literally stain-proof steel with quite high toughness, quite high edge holding, and it's not too hard to sharpen either. It's really cool. Now, these knives are different because a little bit of extra thickness on this one while still being thinner than most knives that anybody would ever touch. I feel like this one's a little bit more robust in the chef cut, even though chef cut is not a tough steel. I think the edge stability and strength of this knife is very high. So I do some bushcrafty stuff with this one. This one here, I'll do some feather sticks and stuff like that, but I wouldn't start beating on this guy. This guy is a pure cutting machine and a joy to use. And it's got my light unto your path bead. My bead that I sell, and a lot of my favorite knives have this bead. This knife would have this bead as well, but it doesn't have a lanyard hole. So either of these guys, I think, would probably need to be in the running without considering a super bougie art maker that I probably would not know. And the Creeley came in this sheath. I don't know who made it. Maybe he made it, but it's very nice with the ulti clip and the leather. And then the Rowland Cutlery came in a JRE sheath. And Rowland Cutlery does more kitchen knives, more kitcheny knives, more dedicated kitchen knives, but he also does more bushcrafty knives like the Kit Fox, which I would really like to grab. Fantastic question, man. All right, so Max's Path asked, what do you think of Primitive Woodsman? Love the rubber scales they're doing. So Primitive Woodsman is kind of a different category of knife maker. I am a fan of his knives, especially his big knives. I think a lot of them are a little bit thick behind the edge, but they're not dummy thick. I think that they're big. I think they're practical. I think they're well made, and I'm a fan. So I haven't used any of the small knives, but a lot of his own smaller knife designs don't quite attract my attention as much as his bigger stuff does. His bigger stuff, it blows me away. And I apologize, guys. Okay. Caleb asked, how do I sharpen my knives? I'm not the best knife sharpener. I am not a authority on the subject. Most of my sharpening is stropping, although stropping with a compound on the strop is not technically stropping because you're removing some material. But regardless, I do a lot of stropping. When I am not using that, I'm sharpening by hand, generally speaking, using DMT diamond stones, really tiny ones, or a Lansky diamond rod that I have, and a doggone Sharpie. So I'm going to Sharpie that edge like an absolute noob moron, and I'm going to follow my lines and try and keep that angle until I get a burr on the opposite side. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing. So there are people out there that are just light years ahead of me on sharpening. The method that I use is one that any dummy-dumb can use. It can be effective. I would not win any edge contests with these people, but I can shave hair and cut all day long. So I'm very much a practical use kind of a guy, and I get a practical edge that I'm not disappointed with. Now, my bigger knives, when I can, or I'd say in between knives, I do love my Work Sharp Angle Adjust Pro. A lot of people hate that sharpening system. I have figured it out. I need to do a video on unlocking the secrets of getting the best edge out of that system. And for the price, I absolutely love it. I do want a better guided system, though, something a little more bougie. Crispy Donut Community again with a fantastic question. As someone who I think of as an avid outdoorsman or bushcrafter, what is your favorite piece of underrated gear that does not get enough love? I've got 2 answers. Maybe 3. I intend to do a video on this subject, ideally this year, before the end of the year here. My first answer is maybe a little bit less knife nerd related, but it is my combat art training fanny pack. And so some of your favorite dirtbag feds have shown you some 511 fanny pack or something like that and said that they every day carry it and how great it is. They're liars. This is what an everyday carried fanny pack looks like. If you've watched my YouTube channel or met me in person, chances are 100% that you have seen this fanny pack. And what's so unique about it is for a concealed carry, it mimics the draw stroke of an in the waistband holster. I can do it ambidextrously with either hand. It doesn't matter if a zipper's on one side or the other. It pops out just like my proper draw for in the waistband. And it is an absolute life-changing piece of gear. And I do say this as a bushcrafter, even though most people look at this as a tactical thing, but as a bushcrafter, there are times where this really does make a lot of the things that I do possible. Another item is the Grail filters. They are absolutely game-changing, life-changing for Dead Wolf asked if it's okay to shout out a custom knife maker here. Please do, guys. Life-changing for bushcrafters. It freaking saved my butt on the Tetons up in Wyoming, hiking up to Surprise Lake. It has entirely changed the game for bushcraft. And you know what? It changes the game for tactical stuff too. Every single person should have a Grail filter, and I'm not even exaggerating. And the other thing is a stiletto flashlight. This thing is old, crusty, sad, abused, disgusting, and it's been even for bushcraft. Having a little bit of light, and I can stick this in my mouth and see what I'm doing and be hands-free or whatever. It doesn't take up a lot of room in my pants. It doesn't fall out of my pocket all the time. I don't like putting anything round in my pocket anymore. Game changer. Great question. So, okay, so the Green Force Tactical FUPA holster. That's cool. That's cool. That sounds sick. I've got the Thai Grail bottle. My wife splurged on me, and I believe she got it for me for my birthday, but it could have been for Christmas. It's so sick, dude. It's so good. But I don't think I would suggest someone to get it like if they had to get one. The titanium takes dents and holds them, whereas I think the plastic might actually be a little bit lighter and a little more practical. But the bougie points on the doggone titanium are through the roof, and they just released a new one that's a little bit larger, and I want it. Sam, I'm super stoked to hear about your adventure craft, man. I still, to this day, I don't play games, guys. I practice what I preach, and I truly love what I tell you guys I love, and this is my product, but it's a game changer for me, so I'm glad it's been good for you as well. I've never heard of Wyatt Hines, so I'll have to check him out. Yeah, so you can boil water with the titanium one. That doesn't often matter for me so much. How did I not bring water? Freaking idiot. But for guys who carry like the camping food and stuff like that, I think that is a big point. So that's something to consider. Next underrated knife that I have not talked about nearly enough. This was a Grail of mine made by Jared Beavers. I'm going to be so embarrassed if I just got his name wrong. That would be horrible. But this is Cypress Creek knives. And basically, I stalked Jared for like 10 years at Blade Show looking at his knives. And I wasn't able to buy one for all that time. There's a lot of really good makers out there that I just can't afford to buy from. I can't afford to buy from them all. It's just the way it is. But I finally got one from him. This one's in Nitro V. Beautiful attention to detail. For bushcraft, guys, this is top of the heap. Absolutely beautiful. Other makers that I would put in a category with Jared, which might be rude, I don't know, but AA Forge, I mentioned earlier, and Adventure Sword. Sorry. Doing probably too much talking. Hey, Brickell. Will do. Merry Christmas, guys. Someone asked if this knife has been used for bushcraft. It has, but not nearly as extensively as a lot of my other knives. Because of the finish, it doesn't show as much wear. But again, this is a knife that has not received as much attention as it deserves. And I do plan on changing that this year. For the use your stuff, guys, once again, I just brought this out, but this is what my stuff usually looks like. And when it comes to bushcraft, this is normally what I'm using. I use other people's knives because I'm an absolute knife fanatic, and I spend more time advertising other people and other people's knives and work, far more time than I do my own. Because I'm passionate about it. Goodness gracious. I'm really starting to have a struggle here. Guys, look, if you're looking for custom knives they might be a little more expensive, but they're not outrageous. Another grail maker, Lycian Knives. This is the Lovecraft. It's actually an early prototype of the Lovecraft. Marbles pattern on the blade. I think it I think it would make for a good hunting knife in the blade profile. I will mostly use it as a bushcrafter with a Loveless style handle. I'm like 90% sure this guy is an ABL. Love this thing. Again, it's a pre-production prototype, so it's a little different than its current Lovecraft. I don't know if the sharpening choils will be always be this big. Sometimes on when I'm skinning, sharpening choils irritate me. So I am interested to see if that happens on this guy, and if maybe I would suggest he use a little bit smaller sharpening choil. So far, I haven't had issues, so I've got nothing to say about that. But that's one thing I'll keep an eye on. This is the sheath that it came in. It's nice. Really, really good guy out there just making knives to make a living, working freaking hard, guys. This, I believe these are about $300 depending on the options that you choose. And I haven't talked about price at all tonight, but the amount of labor that would go behind making a knife like this for $300, and it could be up to $400. People don't understand how hard it is to do that and actually make a living doing it. It's a hard freaking market. Yeah, and Max's Path mentioned with the Adventure Craft that it is non-intimidating. That's a big deal for me. And, not only is it non-intimidating, but it's very easy to hide. So when I use this at a restaurant and I take it to the bathroom to clean it off before I put it back in the sheath, of course, after I lick it off, I'll carry it back to the bathroom like this in my hand or whatever else, maybe this. Nobody's ever seen it. Nobody will ever see or notice it. Pointed in towards my body, and it's there. So The driving force behind any of my designs, guys, is versatility. I'm just going to leave this out at this point. I might not be able to go much longer. I'm just, I'm out talking myself here, but we're going to keep going until I can't. All right. This is made by a friend of mine. This sheath is made by Spirit of the Bear Designs. And this Bowie is made by Chris Rannells. Forged out. Chris Rannells is the nicest doggone guy you're going to meet as a custom maker, as anything. He's a mountain of a man. So he competed in strongman. He was a strongman. Of course, as does happen with that, I think he dealt with a lot of injuries. He really forges these out. Shadow steel forge. It is quite thick behind the edge. But the way that it's convexed and the handle geometry work together quite well for me. I love the choil. I love the size and shape of the handle. It's a beautiful piece of knife. It really is. Really, really cool. And again, he's just a guy that's passionate about making knives. One that I'm going to be bringing back here very soon. This is the Scandinavian Protector 130 EDC. It's a mouthful. Made in Czechia, I believe it is. You used to say the Czech Republic. I believe that's now incorrect. And I do also say Czechoslovakia, which is very incorrect. This is a Sachs design. And everything about this knife is incredibly unique. It is wonderful in hand. 14C28N is pretty close to stain proof. Very tough. Holds a great edge, in my opinion. It's a fantastic knife. Everything is rounded on it. The whole spine is rounded on it. The attention to detail on this knife is absolutely wonderful. It is a fantastic bushcraft knife that comes in a fantastic sheath. I'm going to text my wife and ask her to bring home some medicine because I'm weak. I have a general rule against taking any medicine ever for any reason. But I am going through all of the voice that I have. All right. Most underrated knife, most underrated production knife ever made. Now, I said that the Jasper 4 is probably my favorite production knife, and I think that's true. And I don't see a lot of people talk about this a lot. I think because not a lot of them have gotten out there in circulation. But I don't know if I've ever seen anybody get it, and I don't know. I feel like the knife that is the most underrated, even if it doesn't necessarily make much sense, is the White River Knife and Tool FC7. I've got a little bit of damage on this one near the tip. Oh my gosh. What's so crazy about this? I think this knife weighs like 14 ounces, maybe less, maybe 12 ounces. It's tougher than, or maybe I should say stronger, than the Topps Dart that I compared it with, even though the Topps Dart is in what should be a tougher steel and with literally like a 3 times thicker behind the edge thickness. So the knife should be astronomically tougher than this guy, but it wasn't. So at like 12 ounces, we've got a 7-inch blade here, a high grind, again, a very thin edge. And so with almost no weight on the belt, this thing chops way, above its weight class. The edge is so thin that you can do fine work better than most knives half its size, a quarter its size. You can do fine work with this knife better than a lot of knives out there that are this big total. Because that edge is so fine and it just glides through anything so nice, from chopping down trees to chopping vegetables in the kitchen. This knife is absolutely amazing. I do intend to break this knife and see what can really take. The other thing is here, you get an absolutely top of the line, goes toe to toe with any custom sheath with the FC7. I used to look at these and shudder at the price. This thing is a bargain. They're just, people do not give these enough credit. All right. Let's grab another fun one. The Wander Tactical Smilodon. Christian, good to have you, buddy. I already talked about your knife, but I am just stoked to see you on here. This Wander Tactical Smilodon has tasted my blood, actually twice. Made in Italy. Beautiful knife. It almost chopped my pinky off there. Made out of D2. I told Alex, I said, here's the deal. I think D2 sucks. I don't think your ultra expensive knives should be made in D2. But I do want to test one. And I want to test it hard. And if you think that you've got a good product and you're confident about it, I will give it a 100% honest review. He gave this to me at Blade Show. And I literally need to do a video this winter shooting and cooking a crow and eating it to talk about D2. Now, that's not to say that it is the steel that I would choose for anything, to be honest. In today's modern economy, I would not look at for anything. I would not look at D2 and say, that's the steel I'm going to pick. However, they do D2 exceptionally well, and it does absolutely perform amazingly. The knives are simply fantastic. I love this knife. So Work Tough Gear and Wander Tactical have forced me to change my opinion on D2. I'm going to break this knife, and I don't know how I'm going to do it because I think it's going to be dang near impossible. I really love this knife. Some of these knives I'm gonna break are really gonna bum me out. Gun-toting Minnesotan, good to have you, man. Is the Legionnaire going to make it to production? Gosh, that has been an experience. I've got to sell my old diesel truck and the roller truck that I've got with it. I've got to get some money. I'm going to put basically all of that money into that project. I just need to make it happen. I'm having a really hard time with the truck. Long story short, hopefully I smoked the clutch. My back was thrown out. I hired a mobile mechanic to come help me replace the clutch. I paid him by the day. He pulled the old clutch out and never came back. And now it's really hard for me to get started on that again. And I need to just take it to someone to just get it done so I can get it done and get it sold. But a lot of money stuff came up. So I need to make a lot more money. And then when I need to make a lot more money, when I, pay for setup and tooling and all of that money goes away, that will be very hard for me. But I need to make it happen. So it will happen. Dead Wolf said, Joe X broke my cold steel fan whistle. Jessup, dude, thank you. I can't thank you enough, man. Joe X is a gem. Joe X is exactly what the industry needs. And I don't always agree with his assessment. I don't always agree with how he does everything. I might be a more analytical person than Joe X. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate that guy. And we need more people like him in the industry. Not just more people out there breaking blades, but more people out there spending their money on what they love, like I've been doing, and sharing that passion with others for free because they love it. And so he gives me a lot of content to talk about, and he actually sent me his broken Busse knives, which I'll talk about the Busse next, I guess. And I need to get those out and do a video on it. What's up, Gabriel? Glad to have you, man. Yeah, Max, I can't wait to get that project off the ground. All right, so speaking of Busse, I don't know where I stand on Busse, but I know I like this knife. I think I remember the name of this knife. What's up, Firefighting? I think I remember it's the Badger. This was given to me by my buddy Kraken Tactical in Australia. He gave this to me at Blade Show. The factory edge was not impressive. And given the price point of Busse knives, that is my biggest complaint. I believe that they should come often with better finished edges. I do have a Busse knife that I am happy with the edge on, and I've got two that I wasn't. But I put an edge that I'm happy with on this knife. It's a very unique set of proportions for a knife with the handle to blade ratio. Infi steel. And so I would say that overall, I would be a Busse fanboy. I would say I am. Now, a lot of the guys in the Busse group have pissed me off, and Jerry basically called me a liar, which I didn't appreciate. But that was in a situation that was not very fun for those guys, and I understand the position that they were in. Some of them, not Jerry, some of them over there are just wankers, but that's all right. I'm a wanker too. But I would say that overall, I'm a fan of Busse, but not a full fan. And they are not who I would tell someone getting into knives to go to for the best bang for the buck. And that's okay for a smaller shop like them. I just wish that their edges would come out nicer for the price sometimes. Yeah, Last Huntsman didn't love his Busse either. And he said crap edge geometry. Now my Busse Bushwhacker Mistress. Big old knife. It's got a thicker edge that's convexed. But that edge thickness is appropriate for the size of the knife. And that's incredibly important, is your edge thickness as a match of what you intend to do and what steel is used and what the heat treat is. And I love that knife, and it is with the Canadian Craftsman right now for a custom sheath in splinter tarn or strict tarn, the East German camo pattern. I had Kydex custom made in that camo pattern, and I will be selling my knives with that custom Kydex as well. And I am so excited about it. All right, here's one that I have not shown enough. This is the Essential. This is by Primitive Bear Knives. I don't know if you'll be able to tell here. This one is marked Papa Bear Knives, which was his old brand name before it changed. You're not going to be able to tell due to this Duracoat or Alumahide or whatever this is. Love the orange and green. The handle is really, really cool. You don't see a lot of knives this size with that aggressive of a tip. What a doggone poker. So I've had a Chris Reeves Green Beret. I've had some other legendary Grail knives. But I do think that if I was going to take a knife to combat, it'd probably be one of these two. It might honestly also be this Busse. That's how much I like that Busse, but probably one of these two. Just fantastic knives. Should get a custom sheath on this blade. It's such a cool blade. And A2. Very unique. Max's Path asks, so I gave my son a Mora to use on campouts, but this March for his next birthday, I want to give him something special. Suggestions. Gabriel at The Last Huntsman would be another great guy to ask this question to, a fellow knife nerd. And so what I'm assuming here is that we're going to be looking for a balance of performance and price and value for a kid who may break or lose or severely damage the knife. We need toughness and we need an affordable cost. If I'm off the mark there, you let me know. I would highly consider a Becker BK16. I think in that price range. I mean, in that for that use. I'm sure they still make the BK16. Hopefully. And I'm going to have to think a little bit longer on what else I might go with there. You know, Essie has a lot of good options. I think the BK16 for a kid, though, might be a little better, a little smaller, a little bit better handle ergos, I think, for the most part. Cheaper than one of the really nice Essies. I'd probably try the BK16, which oddly is a knife that I've never actually reviewed on this channel. So Gabriel said an SE4, and I can't argue with Gabriel. I mean, the SE4 is a fantastic blade. Firefighting asks if I still have my Hogue EXF01. I do. I like that knife. I don't think I would choose it as a combat knife over some of the other things that I showed here, but it would be a better combat knife than what I brought with me to combat. I think it's a decent knife. I did recently have a fallout with the designer of that knife for absolutely no reason that I can figure. I don't understand if that guy just got a god complex and lost his mind or what. But it's a great knife. It's a good package. I do, if I had one thing that I wished about the knife, it would be that it was a little bit thinner behind the edge. But I mean, all in all, it's a good unit. Todd B asked, do you like any tops? To answer your question, I do like some tops. I have liked tops before. I have had a lot of issues with tops. I have never had a good relationship with tops. And I don't think I would buy a tops nor recommend a tops. With that being said, I am not familiar with the Armado 6.5. Jessup, dude, how you doing, bro? I'm glad that you're here now. You know, science math season. He knows me too well. So one thing that you can do, Max's Path, if you want to get them in SE4, but you want to make it a little special, you can get one with the 3D handle scales. I love SE's 3D scales. Or you can get them a normal one that's cheaper without the 3D handle scales, and down the road for a birthday or something like that, you can get them some custom scales from Lucas Carroll, and that would take it absolutely to the next level. You could also order if you wanted down the road, a custom Kydex sheath. It could really lead into a child's lifetime of gifting, which I am a fan of. So Christian said that he has a bob from Tops, and after making their Scandi into an actual Scandi, it works well. So I've had a few experiences with the Tops bob. I've noticed vast variations in their edge geometry. Generally, I think they usually have a convex edge that is way too thick. I think that they are generally too soft, but I don't think that they have any good consistency with their heat treating. And so I can see how if a bob had a proper edge or a thinner edge, I can see how that would be a good performing knife, certainly. Although I don't think I'm a fan of a pommel striker. Oh, the Chussy review. I thought about bringing the Chussy out here. That's going to come. That's going to be a fun one. If you want to get a aftermarket sheath for your SE knife, our Mantis Carry makes fantastic Kydex sheaths. They'll ship them straight to you, and you can use coupon code LASTHuntsman and get a bit of a discount. This knife is going to go into a video that I'm planning on doing on some of my weirdest knives. And I do love it. This is the Kermit from Hotner. And it is 154 cm. It is thicker behind the edge than what I would normally like on a knife this size. The fit and finish might at this point have been a little bit of what I would call rustic, which sounds maybe like an insult, but it is something that I actually like and appreciate. But the handle geometry on this thing is so unique, and the length of it works so well, and the way I can force it against my hand, the edge geometry isn't so much an issue. I would appreciate it being much thinner, no doubt. But I can get so much leverage on it that I can still do cool work with it. And it's just such a cool knife. And it deserves a lot more screen time than I've given it. Can't wait to do the Chussy review. That's actually what I had a problem with the doggone guy from Hogue about. Doggone Alan Elishewitz was he had to leave me a rude comment when we Rockwell tested the doggone knife. He basically called me a dumbass, and I'm like, is this like I've talked to the guy like freaking a dozen times? I've talked to his wife. I don't know. Maybe he was drunk. I don't know. What the heck? Todd asked if I'm hearing any updates on Survivor Guy. He sold all his equipment and filed for bankruptcy, so he doesn't owe anything to anyone. He should be in prison. Here we are. This knife here, the Survive GSO 5.1. I got this from John at Heavyset Tactical in Magna Cut. It is their flagship knife. I don't have an update on Guy. I do have a phone call with Guy where he said some things that he contradicted the next day in his last video, and that pissed me off. But that's not worth sharing, I don't think. And here's the deal. If Guy has some super secret, big secret spy plan, he has nothing right now. But if he has some super secret plan to go down to Cozumel and has some money in some offshore bank account that nobody knows about, he's just been waiting for the right time to eject, as he had planned back in 1992 or whatever, then I would say that I hate the guy. If he goes missing, I would say I hate the guy. Where we're at right now, I feel bad for the guy. He made a ton of bad decisions. I think he has some mental issues, a lot of which I probably share myself. And it's a bummer deal. Should he be in jail? That's a hard question. He stole your money. Does that mean that he should continue to live off of taxpayer dollars for the rest of his life and get free meals in prison and continue to be a financial burden to society? Probably not. I think it's a sad story, honestly. I almost wish I hadn't covered anything on it. I think I'm going to sell that GSO 5.1 back to John. All right, here, let's talk about another big boy here. The Work Tough Gear V44X. SK85. Very fun knife, designed by Reese at Well Regulated. Go check them out. Fun knife to use. It's deserved more time than I've given it. And again, I think I'm going to take it out, and I think I'm going to break it. We'll see what it could really take. Why ain't you using an axe? Doggone it. Here's a newer one that I love. The Reef Knives Circadian. This is about as much knife as you can put in your pocket. So comfortable to use for bushcraft. So comfortable to use for anything. Good edge geometry. Typical Reef attention to detail. And guys, Reef is just one of the reasons that Survive doesn't matter anymore. I didn't know how I'd feel about this leather sheath, but it works incredibly well in pocket with the ulti clip that it comes with. Sheath is made by Badger Claw Leather. It's a good unit. This is just a fantastic knife in Magna Cut. Probably should break this one. I don't know if I will. Again, this is my Christmas edition Light Unto Your Path bead, because it's one of my favorite knives. And yet I haven't showed it off as much as it deserves. This is a very small portion of my knives, and I've forgotten some that I wish I had brought out here. And there's a ton of knives that have gotten enough, YouTube exposure and gotten enough work on them. So I have too many knives is the problem. So Todd B said, my Reef 4 came to me very dull. I'm absolutely shocked to hear that. Like, floored and blown away. I would bet anything that if you reached out to the guys that they would take care of you. Anything can happen in business. It's how people handle things that really says stuff. But I'm blown away by that. What's up, Chris? Here's a knife that deserves way more attention than I've given to it, and this is another knife that I'll break. Before these knives were produced, White River sent me a prototype to abuse, and they asked me if I thought that it was tough enough. And I abused it. Had no issues. And I told them, I think it's tough enough. Long story short, it wasn't tough enough. They had some warranties, and they had to go back and thicken out that edge a little bit and add a micro bevel to it. It wasn't holding. I don't know why it did for me in the T&E sample. I guess that's just one of the ways that manufacturing goes. So what I'm going to do, this one matches factory dimensions at this point, is I'm definitely going to break this knife. There will be no doubt as to whether or not I tested this knife hard enough this time, because I feel guilty about what happened the first time. Great knife, ferro rod notch. The Scandi still slices like crazy with just a micro bevel on it, slightly convexed, bow drill divot. Wonderful, wonderful little knife. Great little package. I'm blown away that I think I'm going to get actually done with all of this. Last knife on the list. Another one from Poland. TD Custom Knives. Cool leather sheath. Bushcraft style sheath. And it came with us. When I say that you can't hardly compete with the value of these knives that come from Poland, Todd said that he wants an Ursus 45. The Ursus 45 is one of the best bushcraft knives, production bushcraft knives to ever be made, I think. I say you can't compete with the guys in Poland. I don't know how they do it, but you can't. Big old hunk of O2 tool steel. Beautifully made knife. Work of art. Now, this one was sent to me not by TD. I think it's Todd, something I can't pronounce. That's embarrassing, but it's a name that I can't pronounce. It wasn't sent to me by him. It was sent to me either by Polish Custom Knives, and an online knife retailer, or another Polish custom knife website that I always confuse with Polish Custom Knives. And I should know which is which, but the truth is I always get it confused. So they sent me this and another knife, and I think once again, chances are we will most likely break this knife somehow, because an O2 steel with its behind the edge thickness and its overall thickness and everything else, I don't see how this thing's going to break. I think it's dang near indestructible. And I think it was under $400. I think it might have been right at about $300, which is just crazy. You're not going to be able to see the detail in the handle, on the flats, the saber grind. This is such a beautiful knife. So there we go. Now, Todd B said there's a knife company in Ukraine selling excellent fixed blade knives on Amazon for around $40. There are actually two. Beavercraft and BPS. I will have a review on knives from both of them up pretty soon. I do think that they are an amazing value, but they're not quite good enough, I don't think, to dethrone Mora or some of the more expensive knives. So they're a really good option. They're a really good value, but they're not such a good value that they're killing everybody else. Thank goodness, honestly. Edges, a little bit less than ideal. Fit and finish, a little bit rough. Materials, a little bit cheap. Doesn't hold an edge all that long. Sheath is really cheap. But for the price, and now Max's Path, if you'd asked me about a first knife, which I think when you did, I think I did suggest these guys. For a first knife, I think that they could potentially be quite good, although the sheath might be a little dangerous for a kid. But not necessarily for a second knife. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to call it a night here before the computer dies or my throat falls out of my mouth. The last thing I want to tell you guys, the knife industry is having a struggle right now. I know this personally. If you look at these prices and you're thinking, man, prices on these good knives have skyrocketed recently. They haven't. Certain knives have crept up in price, but the market as a whole has not yet skyrocketed. But within 3 years, I would say, with just a couple bad things happening, I think when it comes to custom makers and a lot of manufacturers and a lot of other stuff, you're going to see a lot of options start disappearing. And when you see a lot of options start disappearing, you're going to see prices skyrocket. This will be a natural market correction. This will not be hyperinflation. Right now, the market is hyper saturated. Prices are inorganically low and competition is through the roof. When we see manufacturers and makers die off and go do something else, be it fight and die in a war or go work some stupid job just to be able to buy a loaf of bread or whatever the case may be, and the prices skyrocket, they will comparatively probably go back to what they were in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it won't be hyperinflation, like I said, it will be a market correction. And we've gotten too used to having it too good. 10, 15, 20 years ago, it would not matter how much money you spent. You could have infinite money. You would not get a knife better than this Reef Circadian in magnet cut steel when it comes to performance. Doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates. It wasn't around. It's truly amazing. So people are looking at these knives and magnet cut and other super steels and stuff like that, and man, these are too expensive. Man, these are too expensive. We're looking at them as being too expensive because we're looking at it as a hobby. When you look at it as an actual tool with a job to do and something that you're actually going to rely on, they're dirt freaking cheap. So if you're sitting here waiting, thinking about pulling the trigger, I'm not telling you to go to exodusknifeandtool.com where I have 2 jackalopes left right now And anybody who buys one's going to get a free HCO strop and a free Christmas bead and a free Beach and Tactical belt lanyard with those last 2 knives. I'm not telling you to go do that. I'm telling you, if you've got a knife on your list right now, I'm not telling you go buy all the knives either. If you've got one on your list that you've been looking at getting for years, what I'm telling you is go get that one. Don't put yourself out. Don't eat ramen noodles or whatever, but like think about, you've been wanting this knife for years or since you were a kid. I had knives that I wanted since I was a kid. Had knives I wanted for decades. If you've always fantasized about having a certain knife and you've just been putting it off, stop putting it off. Dead Wolf said, I'm only looking to sell. I would probably hold on that too. I think the used market will skyrocket. Right now is a horrible time to sell knives. Due to the economy, the used market is cutthroat right now. Brutal. So, all right, homies. Merry Christmas, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope that you all have a blessed evening. I'll see you around.